So this morning we're going to run through our P6-Reporter tool. I'm Nicole Jardin, coming to you from Calgary. I'm the founder and CEO of Emerald. And from Edmonton, we got Marilyn Backstrom. She's one of our implementation specialists, and she will show you the software in action. So let's talk about why we decided to build this tool. So we've been working with P6-Reporter for many years. So it used to be called our EP dashboard. But a few years back, that tool was built on Adobe Flex technology. And a few years back, there was a conflict with Apple, etc., that made them open source that tool. And more and more clients, too, were moving towards some sort of centralized dashboarding. So in the end, we switched our model a little bit, and we already had our data warehouse. So this tool is built on our data warehouse with queries that help extract that data pre-developed, so that it makes it much faster for us to go ahead and help your team develop common reporting in a tool like Power BI or Tableau or business objects, etc. Okay, there's a lot of reporting tools that people have chosen as their corporate standard. So we facilitate pushing data into that corporate standard with P6-Reporter. So it's a framework that gets that data out to your other systems. And I think that works better. That way you can merge P6 data with other data from your corporate system. Could be SAP data, Maximo data, could be safety data, etc. So I think it makes more sense to have it go in this direction. So that's really what we're trying to do, is get the complex data that we've got in P6 shareable. Okay, because ultimately what we're trying to do with P6 is we're trying to share dates when people are supposed to be doing their work to get the project done, resources that need to be certain places, how much resource. So we're trying to share that data with many people, and having it sit in P6 is not getting it out to the extended team. So that's not good. That's exactly what we want to avoid, is having it as a silo. So P6-Reporter brings you a lot of flexibility to get the data that you need for each person out to two different engines that they're working in. Self-serve, that's another big thing. Okay, so when I need the data, I need to be able to get at it instead of going to a P6 scheduler and asking them for more reports. So that's really what we're striving towards. Now, getting the data out of P6 is not that easy. Okay, so some of you might have tried to grab the data from the back end. You can do it, but it's complicated. There's lots of different tables, over 100 that you need to be looking at, joining, etc. You might also have been pulling the data out through Excel and then doing reports in various things off of Excel data. Well, we've done that. We've all done that. But if it can be time consuming. It could also not come out right. Okay, so if you use the wrong report, okay, and maybe in a rush you use the wrong report, or you might have flipped a filter on in your layout and not realize you changed your filter. Lots of little simple things can cause you to not have accurate and efficient reporting. So these are part of the reason that we move towards having our own tool that is consistent. The snapshotting is going to be consistent, and that way your reporting comes out much cleaner. So I'm going to ask a quick question. How do you get your reports done from P6? Okay, so if you want to answer, we share all this statistics every year. They're on our website. We sent out a email too, and it's always good to share how other people are doing, and it gives people new ideas. Okay, so I'm kind of happy less people today are saying access database. I'll go ahead and share it, and not everyone's necessarily answering, so I'll just share whoever was willing to answer. Um, because an access database, you might as well look at our P6 reporter in that case, because essentially we've already done the legwork there. And yeah, Excel is still pretty common the way people are using it. Okay. But the second one is really what people are moving into. They're using their corporate tools to do the reporting. So what we're trying to propose here is, let's get Excel out of the mix. Benefits are going to be, you're going to be more efficient, a lot more accurate. Yes, there's a bit of a cost for the P6 Reporter tool, but on the other hand, we've already tackled a lot of the heavy lifting, okay, that you might want to do. So as you try and do more and more corporate standard reporting, it becomes harder and harder to use Excel. And Mary Lynn's had to use Excel a lot, so she can touch on it as she goes through. So how does it work? Let me give you a quick overview, and Mary Lynn will actually do the deep dive and show you various things that we've helped clients put together. And we can show you Tableau, we can show you Power BI, but we've done many different reporting engines. Okay, those are just two of the more common ones being used, and so we can show you a bit of both. So the way that reporter works. So the first and foremost, it's built on top of our data warehouse. So it's called EP Data Warehouse. So it's a snapshot that we take of the data. And that can be done when people are ready. So it can be manually invoked, or it can be automated. Okay, so we have clients that take snapshots every single day, possibly after an integration has run, or they have it automated to go, let's say at midnight, to run every day at midnight. So they've got the latest capture, or it could be weekly. Okay, so it sort of depends on your situation. The snapshot is taken, and you can control what data points you put into that snapshot. So if you want baselines to go in the snapshot, you can do that. If you want steps and expenses and resource assignments, you can take that. Resource assignments with the spreads. So the spreads are one of the hardest things to get out of P6 because they're not saved in the database. As a user, we see them on the screen, but they're not saved in the database. So the spreads are, what that means is the daily or weekly values that you might see in a histogram. Okay, so those are not easy to get out properly. And earn value and things like that, again, not easy. So there are certain techniques that we've got, and we've already tackled them in the P6 Reporter. And then you could do all sorts of good things with the snapshots. So the snapshots let you do comparisons much more readily than taking a baseline every time you do an update. So the snapshots will let you compare. So you can do impact analysis. You can compare time over time data. Okay, so this week's with last week's with last year at this time. You can do all sorts of fantastic analysis because of the snapshots. So not only do we snapshot the data, but we do what's called denormalizing it. So we merge tables together to make it easier to work with. Okay, so that's a big thing. If you try and tackle the reports directly off the P6 database, it's a lot of tables to try and wrap your head around. And as I already mentioned, we do the spreads. So that's a big thing. And we take not absolutely everything out of P6, but a very, very big portion of the data, including the calendars, we snapshot them, and the logic. So if you want to do various impact analysis, you can do it using this data. Okay, so Mary Lynn's going to jump in and show you the data snapshotting. She's going to explain the idea of the views. It's a bit hard to show that. It's programming stuff. And then she's really going to show you the deep dive on the data display. Okay. I'm going to ask one quick question and then we're going to jump into to the showing. So how often do you do reporting? What are your requirements? No, it's going to depend on your projects, of course. If you're doing turnarounds, you're going to have daily, I would think. If you're doing capital, you're looking more like weekly, every 2 weeks, maybe every month. Okay, so it's going to vary, of course, depending on your projects. And doing um, weekly updating can be challenging in a capital project. So if you're struggling with that, definitely take a look at our CAPS and our TAPS webinars. We also consult a team member, which is Oracle's tool, and our loader does helps with updating via Excel. Okay, so there's some other tools in our toolkit if you're struggling with that. Okay, I'm going to turn it over to Mary Lynn, and she will show us the various reporting that we've done, and she'll give you the idea of how the data warehouse works. Okay, should be yours now, Mary Lynn.
Okay, I'm just going to share my screen here and we'll get going. Okay, what I'll do is I'm going to start over in Tableau because we have some new reports that I just want to make sure that you get a chance to look at. But please keep in mind these reports are food for thought. So the it's kind of an old cliche, the world is your oyster kind of thing. There's many, many, many different ways you can choose to display your information. But some food for thought here. In Tableau, the first one we're looking at is a portfolio summary. So Nicole was explaining that we take snapshots and they don't have to be manual, and we will go through a snapshot just shortly, just so you can see how easy that actually is to do. So what we're looking at here, this is actually our portfolio summary. In other words, this is drawing in information from snapshots in an entire portfolio of projects, not just one project. So you've got right at your fingertips. I can look and I can see how different elements are doing. So I've got upcoming, I know what I need to be keeping an eye on. I've got list of projects, and you'll see that there is some color coding here that is giving you some very good information. You'll see some of these have the red triangles at the end of the information in the column. And this first column, by the way, is cost. Second one is duration. Third one is labor. So you can tell right away by the color coding, draws your eyes to the ones that are red. Of course, those are probably ones you want to keep a close eye on or look into deeper. Now, I've also got blue icons. You can see what's going on with the information. So where are we trending? What's going on with it? Very easy to find. Now, in this particular scenario as well, keep in mind that if you're looking at a list of projects, now you may want to sort on the cost, the duration, the labor hours, or just simply on the project name. And I can do that. So I can just click and I can sort on the column. Sorry, my apologies. I have to do it differently. I was thinking of Power BI. So have to, do you want it alphabetic? Do you want the source changed around a little bit? You can do that. You've got projects by cost status, you've got early and late, you've got project labor hours status by team. So if there is a specific project you want to look at, of course, you can click on it and you'll see what happens when you do that. It's going to highlight that and give you the information for that particular one. Now, you do have a number of filters across the top here. So you do have the ability to, for example, maybe I want to look at just a specific project manager, that type of thing. just deselect all, select the one you want, it's gonna change the list that you've got in the bottom. So it is very, very flexible, but just the fact that you can have all that information at your fingertips reduces so much reporting labor expenditure, that type of scenario. Once these reports are set up and you just go and pick where you want to take the snapshot from. So I've just changed from October to November, and you can see how quickly it responds and gives me the new information. Now, I've even got in the bottom right corner here, you can see project labor hours by status team. So these are drilling projects. I should have mentioned that a little earlier. My apologies. And the the labor hours by status team, they have teams tagged in the projects. So you can even get information split up like that, depending on your projects that you're dealing with. I realize everybody who is with us today is probably not necessarily in the drilling arena, that kind of thing. But you've got all your different filters here. So the next one I wanted to show you, this is project detail. And I really wanted to make sure we had the chance to see this one. This is one of the newer reports that has been developed. And you can see here, this is not portfolio, this is project level. So I can not only pick the snapshot for the project, but I can also pick which project do I want to have a look at. Well, right now we're looking at facility 2B. That just happened to be, sorry, my apologies there. Trying to get rid of a little bit of a frog and it just doesn't want to leave. So what I wanted to do is just show you what another one might look like. So I'll just go down here a little bit, and we could have picked any one, but you can see, just pick another project, all your information is here. So I've got percent complete, I've got costs, and I've got percent complete, total cost, total labor, and duration on the right side here. It tells you late, hours over, CPI, SPI, and resource allocation along with your racetrack for your phase. Now, the racetrack for the phase is very handy. Any of these particular elements, if you hover over the bars that are showing in the cost, the racetrack, and in resource allocation, it's going to show you details underneath. I find that really handy because it's very easy to come in, look at your project, and you're thinking, okay, I know where this was last snapshot. What's changed? This particular report will give you that really easily, like as you can see. And in the resource allocation, this is an interesting one. This is one that is a little different configuration than you see in some of the resource allocation, but I find it really handy as well because if I'm looking at this particular project and I go to, again, we've got color coding so you can see the blocks of time, so to speak, that you probably want to dig into or take a closer look. The blue one's not such a big concern. Now, if you go to, for example, pipeline crew, if I hover over this, you'll see the information it's giving you, the limit for this particular resource. Now I've got all projects, 140% of the limit. This project is 15% of the limit. This gives some pretty valuable information in regards to the overall resources that you're using if they're being used amongst different projects. You might want to go and look at priorities. Maybe there is some change room there for alleviating some of this 247%, for example, on the pipeline crew. But it shows you which ones you would want to dig deeper into pretty much at a glance. So if I go back to my first one we were looking at, I'm just going to go up to facility 2B. That is the one you noticed was on there. You can see how quickly this refreshes for us. Now, For this particular one, I'm looking at the November snapshot, and we've got them progressive here. Now, 40% complete, and I can see this one is late, 30 days, 395 hours over, and you can see CPI and SPI and the graphs. But if I wanna look at this one, and I'm thinking, "Okay, that's what it says now, 395 over. What was it last month?" Well, it's simply a case of just going to the October one, and you can see what's going on here, 23%. So it wasn't too far along there, and I can go back to November. At that point, it's 40%, 30 days late. So what does December say? It's that easy to go and have a look at this information. So still 30 days over, but the hours over has definitely improved. So you can do a lot of those types of comparisons just with a few mouse clicks. So that makes it very, very easy. Now, again, you've got in the graphics the color coding. So percent over baseline for the costs, you can see for labor costs, it'll tell you if you hover, it says percent over baseline, 61.4%. Now, if I go over to the activities list on the right side and I look at days duration, again, you've got dark red tells you, yeah, you've got a high percentage over and you probably need to look at it. So it's very easy to see where problem issues are. And again, no, as Nicole mentioned, no need to go back to a scheduler or have to ask for a whole bunch of reports, anything like that to figure out exactly where you are on your project or in your portfolio, whichever scenario you're dealing with. So I've got resource allocation is another one, and you'll see a similar one when we go into Power BI. But in the resource allocation here, in this particular one, I'm looking at October. Now, again, I could go change it to November, and you'll see it will give me the information that's in the snapshot. Now, if I wanted to see pipeline crew, if I didn't want to see that, if I wanted to go and look at another one, for example, drilling crew, you've got your information changing right on your screen. So you can pick the resource that you want to look at, and it's going to give you limits, actuals, if there is actual in the time frame you're looking at, remaining, and over allocated. Now, here's the breakdown by project, and you've got over allocated hours. So are you looking at kind of a tsunami type of scenario where you're going to get knocked over by a big wave of over allocated resources down the line? Hopefully not, but this piece will give you some of that information, give you a heads up, so you know you need to dig deeper into it. Now, you also have the projects, and you'll notice you've got the color coding on the projects as well. So it gives you an idea of what's happening here. So this is, by the way, by float. So you've got a good idea right off the bat which ones have a little bit of wiggle room. So if these are the ones that need this resource, is it possible maybe to move a few things around? Might be, might not be, but it gives you some rolled up information that you can, of course, evaluate and see what's happening. Now, I've got milestone trending, and we do have another one of these in Power BI that we'll have a look at. So we've got this is the October one. And when you're looking at milestones, these are drilling files. So they've got tags on the milestones as to what they pertain to. So you'll notice it says ready to license, and you could pick any of these, ready for production, and your curve changes, that type of scenario. So you control what milestone types you're looking at and the snapshot that you're dealing with. Now, this next one here, um, I've been on a lot of turnarounds. And this one is in the turnaround world very, very valuable. It reduces a lot of manual labor because when you look at these are what is called green up reports. Now, what it's doing, for example, relief valve summary. You've got the valve removed, the valve in the shop, the valve reinstalled. So you've got your service items here, and you can look at a glance and see where these are at. Now, you might look at this and think, well, that's actually pretty simple. Keep in mind in the background, these few lines you're seeing on here could be 3 or 4,000 activities. They're being rolled up to show you exactly where that particular element is at. Gives you a very easy way of seeing, is there something out of sync as well? Do you have some 100% in the valve reinstalled where valve removed and valve in the shop is not even status? That's a good indicator. Okay, I need to look at this. My reporting, we're not claiming they're in value we should be, that kind of scenario. We have control valve summary at the bottom here. Again, all the control valve stages. And you can see there is some here that I would probably be looking into. For example, this makeup hydrogen, nothing under disconnect, no percentage under remove valve in, valve in shop isn't even there, install valve, and checkout is there, but nothing in connect. That would raise an eyebrow for me. So it gives you very, very visual, very quick roll up, and you don't have to go and open a layout in P6 and make sure you've got it rolled up properly. This is automatically fed from your snapshot. So as Nicole said, they can be manual or you can have them automated. So after the updates are done in your schedule, whatever time frame you're dealing with, you can just have it automatically re-snapshot and your information is going to update. So we've got exchanger and piping green ups. Again, very similar. It's just different elements that it's rolling up for us. One of the big ones I find I have used a number of times. I've used these others as well, but this one probably more. Inspection green ups. Now, inspections are something, of course, in any project, you're going to have to look after them. You're going to have to know what's going on with each and every element. In turnarounds, probably even more so just because of the volume of the work you need to control. So this is another one. You've got the servicing, you've got all the different inspection types, and you can see here what's going on with the dates. So completion date or when they should be complete, that type of scenario. So you've got the start date, completion date. So this is the start date, and you can see some of these have been completed. But really, I've seen projects where this inspection summary, and I'm being totally serious about this, the inspection summary was a printout on the wall in a boardroom, and people actually went in before every update meeting and were manually marking these off where they were done. Because not because they weren't updating the schedule, but because there was no way at that point to easily feed what was in the schedule into something that they could put on wall in the boardroom. And of course, you can roll it up in P6, but there again, somebody's got to roll it up and print it. And that's where the hiccup came. So it's not that you can't get the information out of P6, of course, but this is much easier if it just takes the snapshot and you've got your information. Now, we've got a couple others here. Racetrack by discipline. So this again is food for thought, depending on what types of information you're looking for. So we've got system, function, and then the discipline. So it's divided by the system on the left, then the function under that system, and each of the disciplines is what this color coding of the Gantt bars in the middle is. So it gives you a very visual information as to what work have I got going on. For example, in any of the functions in commissioning, for example, I've got electrical and structural going on in the top line. So you can get a visual of what's going on in that respect. Now you've also got racetrack by function. So this is another look at similar information. I've got the system and the discipline, and you can see here's my color coding: engineering, procurement, fabrication, construction, commissioning. So you can be very creative with what types of reports that you display depending on the type of project you're dealing with and how you need to roll it up. So now what I'd like to do is have a look at Power BI. Now, I did say that I wanted to show you how easy it is to actually create a snapshot. So in case you're wondering why I'm starting at the bottom of the list of reports we've got in Power BI, this particular racetrack report, I've got October, excuse me, I've got October and I've got November. So I've got a side by side comparison, well, one on top of the other, but they're on the same page. So I can very easily see where there is differences in these particular elements. So if I want to create one for December, what do I have to do? Well, let's go have a look at P6. It's very easy to do this. And keep in mind that what we're going to do here, you don't actually even have to do, because you can have these set up to automatically create another snapshot. So the first thing I want to do here before I create the next increment for the snapshot is I want to go into the file. So I'll go into activities and let's make a change, one that we're going to see the difference on. So I've got an activity here that I'm just going to go in and I'm going to extend it a ways. I hope you're not on a project where it gets extended out quite this much, but so that it's very visual, we'll just make it easy to see. So I'll take it out to September and I can even schedule it. So once I've got the changes in to create a snapshot, this file has had snapshots created before, so there is the background settings that are set up. Do you want the baseline? Do you not want the baseline? That type of scenario. But from that point on, to create a snapshot, all I have to do is I have to tell it what snapshot period am I creating. And it was December the 15th. I realize the dates are a little out, but we're looking for December 15th, 2021. And to create it, all I have to do, I usually take this message out. You don't actually have to, but it makes it very visual when it's finished creating it. So I'm just going to say go, and it's going to go away and create the snapshot for us. Now it usually takes 2 or 3 minutes, but it will go away and it's creating the new snapshot with all the project information in it. Now, once we've got the project information created in this new snapshot, we can just go back into this report we were looking at and we can refresh it, ask it to display it, that type of scenario. So it is, but you can see to create the snapshot itself, I didn't have to do much. Make the change. I scheduled the project, and to that part was getting the update in basically, one very small update. And when I go into the project to create the snapshot, I have basically 3 fields I need to address, and really that's it. There's not much more to it. It's very, very easy to do that. So I'll just give it a few more seconds. It should be, ready in not too much longer. It's usually a couple, 3 minutes is all. So when you're able to do this kind of thing, it makes it very, very easy to run comparisons. And whether you've got them showing up one on top of the other or you've got side by side, that kind of scenario, we'll look at some milestone trending where you can look at we have a configured report to show you milestones, but side by side instead of one on top of the other. You can get very creative with how you want to set up your reports. But again, it makes it so easy because I don't have to go in and there's my snapshot. So I don't have to go in and roll up and figure out coding and things. You set the reports up once, you create the new snapshot, click on what snapshot you want, and you've got your information. So now if I look at the information I've got here, let's go up and put, I'll just flip it down 1 month. So we'll put the 11th, the November one there. And in this bottom one, let's look at our new December one. So you can see that that activity that I extended is part of this contracting number 5, and that is what's pushing it out so far. So you can see how easy that particular process is. So let's go up and look at, we have some dashboards. Now, we have a management dashboard. And again, just keep in mind, this is running off a portfolio of drilling projects. But just imagine you come in, you're managing a portfolio, you log into your dashboard, you can see upcoming, you can see budget hour status by team and project. You've got late and early. How many of the projects in your portfolio are early, on time, and late? Over allocated resources. And then I've got milestone trending. So I can even see ready to license, ready to permit, final tie-ins. It's all there. So I've got some other dashboards as well. So this is for the wells, excuse me. This is for the wells. So again, you have a number of different portlets where you've got specific information depending on what you want to see on your dashboard. So this particular one here is for the wells. So you've got overallocated hours, and this, of course, is drilling crew. So we've got resource profile, and we've got milestones, surface land start, ready to license. And in this case, you've got um, the Gantt chart type of scenario at the bottom. So let's go down to portfolio. And we did look at a portfolio report when we were in Tableau. This is the same type of scenario, very, very similar, but in Power BI. Now, whichever tool you display it in, again, you've got the same scenario happening. I've got filters across the top. So if I need to filter down different elements, I can definitely do that. I've got upcoming overallocated resources down the left side. Now, project, I can just click in the column header and resort it of any of these columns. Makes it easier to find whatever it is you want to focus on. I've got late and early. I've got budget status, projects by PM. So if you're looking for how many projects by a specific PM, and I can even click on the project manager. It gives me all their projects, and you can see these other windows have changed to highlight the information that goes with Angela, the project manager. So if I click on it again, I get all the information back. So it's very interactive, very easy to use. So I've got labor hours by drilling team. So again, depending on how you're slicing and dicing your information, I hover over these pieces of information and it's showing me detailed information. So if I was looking at my North team, not a huge change. The North team has quite a few going on, but again, you're going to see the interaction between the windows. Now, if I'm looking for, and this is an interesting one to be aware of, budgeted hours status by team and project. Well, I've got over budget. That's what this orange is. So for example, maybe I want to focus really quickly on the project that is over budget for the North team, because it seems like they're doing really well on the other ones, on budget and under budget. So, curious about what's going on with this one. Well, click on that particular one, and you've got right away that's exactly what that project is. You can see where it's coming in the rest of the scenario as well. But this type of interaction between the portlets makes it extremely easy to see what's going on, extremely fast to dig through the information. Now, you can also, of course, if you're looking at just the project the specific project manager is looking after, I could click Angel here or Bob Beagle, depending on what you're looking for, same reaction. So you've got the idea of you can filter in a number of different fashions. I can click any of these columns and sort. You've got the color coding that indicates right away to you which ones do I actually need to take a close look at. So if I go back to the list, we have a project detail one here as well. So if I look at the project detail, this one is going to look a little different than what we saw in Tableau, but you've got different information that you can, of course, configure the reports to show. This is done for, again, the drilling projects. But again, this is giving you very similar information to what we saw in Tableau. And this is on a project by project basis. So this is for November. I can just go in and perhaps I want to see my facility 2B, which is a project I know I need to keep an eye on. And you can see very quickly, I've got all the information for facility 2B. So it makes it very easy to go in and see what's going on with your particular project. Now, we do have a resource allocation report here. And this one, on the surface, you probably would look at it. I probably would look at it and think, you know what, this is all nice, but this looks pretty static. It really isn't. They Same idea as what we looked at in some of the other reports. I can get very good, very kind of in-depth information from these different portlets that are showing me the different reports here. For example, to start with, if I go to November, this is November, and I'm showing overallocated hours, as you've seen in a few places already. Now, you'll notice on the top right, I'm looking at pipeline crew. Now, I could change to any of the other resources. I'll leave it on pipeline crew for now. Now, with pipeline crew showing, I've got a list of projects, and you'll notice actual remaining overallocated. So you've got some numbers in here. These are showing you the hours. So what happens if I wanted to find out what projects are contributing to one of these overloaded areas? Well, what I can do is I can click on a week in May, for example, and you'll see that I've got a list at the bottom that's showing me the projects, and I can scroll down to see the rest of them. And I've got the list of projects. You'll notice that that particular list changed quite a bit. So if I click on there again, I get the original list back. So if I'm wondering, for example, facility 2B, I need pipeline crews for that one, but where in this profile does it sit? Well, I can click facility 2B. It's out in the July to September area. So if I'm looking priority wise on this list and I want to find out, okay, where does all of this resource requirement fall in the profile? You do have the ability to go through and say, okay, this particular project is priority 1. You can see where both of them are. I could go down and add a few more to the mix here, and you can see where they're falling in the profile. So by priority, you can see, okay, do I need to move some around? Is there an option to address this, make it smooth out a little bit more? That type of scenario. So all of these pieces of this particular dashboard, all the different reports in it are connected together. So it's very interactive and makes it very handy to find the information that you're looking for. So you can, of course, adjust time scales, things like that, so you can get very um, detailed with exactly what you want to focus on. But it is definitely something I find extremely handy. So I do see we're getting on in time here. There is another one that I would like to just give you a look at here, and this is milestone trending. Now you saw the milestone trending in Tableau. Now this is just being displayed in Power BI, slightly different look to it. So we've got, first of all, the milestone trending itself. So again, these are drilling files, so they've got tags on the different milestone types. But I've even done this type of reporting for turnarounds, for example, where you're not going to have ready to license type of scenario, but you're going to have major milestones, unit milestones, things like that. So you can still break them down. But what I had to do with those was not using P6-Reporter, and was it needed a lot more work to get the information out. This To do it this way is ever so handy. As I said, the snapshot you create, whether it's manual or automatic, you create it, and then you can just go through and look at the information you need. So if I'm looking to look at a different snapshot, I can do that. If I'm looking to look at a different type of milestone, I can definitely do that as well. So you pick what you want to look at, and you can see the list of projects and the status of the milestones. If I hover over, you can see the status by baseline remaining, that type of scenario. Now, looking at one and the next is fine, but there is a report in here that's even going to help you more with comparison. So if I click side by side here, now I've got something that's even easier for comparison purposes. So I've still got all the filtering across the top. That hasn't gone away. And what I've got here is I can compare, for example, ready for production. This is October. This is November. Now, if I wanted to go October to December, very easy to change that as well. And you can see right away, and you can go and hover over any element in either side, and it's going to give you visually very quickly the information you're looking for. So you can, of course, filter on a specific team if you want to take it down a little bit more granular, that type of scenario. So this one I find is extremely handy. Of course, that's coming from a person who's had to produce it manually out of P6. This is ever so much easier, saves so much time. And we do have one more that we'll take a quick look at here. Now, this is a Gantt chart, but this is done on resources. So do I want to show all resources? Or do I want to go in and maybe what I'm looking for is maybe what I need to do is, again, for example, look at pipeline crew. You'll see this changes. I've got the project and the Gantt bar across the time frame where this pipeline work is being done. So that's what this particular Gantt report is all about. So these are all food for thought. This is a tool that I find extremely valuable. As I've said a few times already, my apologies on that. It can save you so much time. It can put the information your team needs at their fingertips there when they need it without struggling, as Nicole mentioned, going back to schedulers and things like that. So I hope you've seen some reports here that are going to be helpful with some food for thought. And on that note, I will turn it back over to Nicole.
Okay, thank you, Mary Lynn. Let me grab it back. Okay. Okay, good. Now I didn't see any questions so far in the question room, but if there are things that you want to understand a bit more, go ahead and pop those in. So the whole idea here is we've pre-built the warehouse. We've pre-built the queries that grab most of the standard things that Marilyn was showing you. So we will cut your time down significantly, and your frustration in getting all the reporting out that you want from P6. So that's really what the feedback has been from our clients, of course, on what the benefits and the return on investment is. Because yes, there's an investment because there's a tool there, but we've done a lot of the heavy lifting. So streamlining the reporting, of course, is the objective here. And in doing that, we want to make sure the reporting's accurate. So that's the key thing. That's a very big thing. I've been on a project as well where they pulled out the reports on resources and they filtered things and didn't realize they didn't show the whole set of data. Okay, it's embarrassing. When you do that, it's easy to make those kind of mistakes. And so making sure it's accurate and efficient is a big thing. Accessibility. Okay, so that's the next huge thing here is the self-service functionality. When an inspector, a manager in charge of inspections wants to know what's going on, they can just pull it open on their own machine. They can print it out. They could get it on a phone. You could get it, but it's a bit small, of course. But of course, on an iPad type of thing, so the accessibility is a huge thing, and this is really the biggest benefit. So the right people have the data at their fingertips when they're trying to make decisions and avoid issues. Okay, that's the biggest thing. And visibility. Okay, so the comparison capability is there. It's not easy to do that in P6, and I've seen people take full snapshots of their projects and duplicate and triplicate, and it's crazy. So using an outside warehouse to put the snapshots in and just have your comparisons is much easier to do, and it's more effective. Let's be real. You can do it in Excel. Of course, you can do it. There's no doubt about you can do anything that you really want to, but the amount of effort is very high, and the potential for mistakes is very big. So being able to have earned value at your fingertips is very important. And as Marilyn showed you, the self-service ease of use and filtering is very good in all these sort of out-of-the-box tools. So we might as well take advantage of that. Oops, that is okay. So I think we touched on a few different scenarios. As you can tell, we've worked with clients in turnarounds. We've worked on major engineering type work scopes. And Thales is a good example. They really needed to manage their resources. So they're focus on aerospace, defense, transportation. So expensive resources. They wanted to make sure that they had enough of the right people doing the pre-work. It's mostly pre-work, not necessarily the construction per se that they were focused on. Okay, so being able to do mega efforts on resources, we've done that. So that's really what their focus was. And the key thing is that they wanted to forecast year over year trending, on what kind of jobs are they doing? Are they seeing changes in the types of work they're receiving? Because that was important for them to stay ahead of their resource management. You saw a few quotes from Suncor, so that's certainly one of our major clients that we've worked with since 1999. They've had our warehouse for well over 10 years, and their reporting is done out in their corporate system in business objects, primarily business objects. And so they use snapshots, they use the sort of different trending, the green ups. So this is all things that they're working on, and they do safety and reliability reporting out of there as well. Okay, so those are some different types of examples. So in our 28 years, we've been able to work with many clients on dashboarding and many other areas as well. We've definitely got the broadest toolkit for P6 out in the marketplace. We've got a variety of different tools. So take a look at our webinar schedule. We've got our updating tools. So we've got, I mentioned them earlier, TAPS, and P6 Loader. You can also use Team Member. So we've got 4 different options that we work with different types of clients on updating. We've just shown you the reporting functionality through Reporter, but we also have reporting on quality standards. So our P6 QA is the tool there. So take a look at our webinar for that. And then also to feed various automations, to feed various quality analysis, we've got our P6 calculator. So I just did a webinar the other day on that, and we've got a series of webinars on that because we've got a lot of different functionality. So if there's things that you find your team has to do manually over and over again, and you want to see if you can improve on that, take a look at the calculator and reach out on that. So I don't see any questions. So hopefully that meant that it's pretty obvious what we're trying to drive towards with the tool. And you've got Donna and Mary Lynn's info there. So you can reach out by email is probably the easiest way to get in touch if there's some questions that you're hoping to tackle some of the struggles that your team may be having. And the other thing you can do, you can answer this quick poll question if there's a specific way you'd like us to reach out. Okay, so that just helps make sure we're reaching out in the most appropriate manner for your team. So I think we can probably end it there, Mary Lynn, because I don't see any questions for now.